You've had such an interesting journey into the arts, and I know you did a play in high school, and your father even asked if you considered pursuing it professionally, to which you initially said no. What ultimately led you back into this creative field, and what changed that perspective?
I love that question. I think it's kind of one of those things. It's like, where can I be happy? You see people in life do things because it's what makes sense, financially, or it's what people expect them to do. And for me, I found that, like, as I got into the career field of an engineer, it just didn't. I wasn't excited about it, and I felt like if I'm going to be doing this thing that could be 8 to 10 or 12 or however many hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week or more, I wanted to be excited about it. I watched too many people do things they didn't love, and then you come home and you have like 3 or 4 hours at night where you get to be with your family, which is totally good. Sometimes work is a means to an ends, but for me, I wanted it to be a little bit more of a not an ends, but something I enjoyed the process of. And I got back in performing. First, I started with music on stage at like simple things like open mics and things. And that led me to audition for some plays and some short films and student films while I was in Seattle still. And yeah, I realized that that's the direction I wanted to go.
So it's just such an important lesson for anybody that's following your career about chasing your dreams. And like you're just saying, there's so many different facets to your talent where you act, you direct, you produce. I know you don't love producing, but you do produce and you create music. How have all those different disciplines lent themselves to one another?
Right. Well, I think, I mean, there's so much in that. I think the biggest thing is just organization. Like, as an actor, sometimes people get caught in the idea of, like, I'm an actor and I'm creative, which is completely valid. Like, you have to lean in that. You have to exercise that muscle. But I think what gets lost is like the diligence of a job. Like, it's a job. Like, you want the results of a job, not the results of a hobby. And I think being able to understand both sides of that, which I feel like I'm lucky, like having a little bit of right brain, left brain,
Yeah.
gives me a balance there. My logical side is very like, what's the answer? My creative side's like, bro, there's no real answer. So it's a bit of a bit of a torment at times. But at the same time, I feel like it also allowed me to recognize, like, look, I want to do this. What are the steps? What are the steps that you at least have to do those to even have a chance?
Hmm.
Because if you, like I said, if you treat it like a hobby, you'll get the results of one. Generally, sometimes there's flashes in the pan, but like for the most part, you got to treat it like a job.
That's so interesting, that kind of contrast between your engineering brain that is always looking for answers, and in that field very much you do get those answers, and kind of that creative side of your brain where it is that exploration. I think what about you right now, you're one of the stars of Chicago Fire, and change seems to be a major theme this season, both for you and for your character with your promotion to a series regular. Congratulations, by the way. I think one of the great things about television as a medium is that you have the chance to live with this character for over an extended period of time. As Sam's world and relationships have expanded, was there a new or existing relationship you were most excited to delve into this season?
So it's, I mean, I assume did you watch the premiere last night?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
There's some old relationship that's being investigated already. Um, or a relationship that is from with Tori. Um, it's really interesting. They they've given me such a good opportunity. You know what I mean? When it comes to being able to deal in the past and allow it to blend into the current, the present. Like, whether it's like people pushing into my past that like isn't their business, or at least it doesn't feel like their business in the moment, which can be construed or thought of as being a jerk or being cold or whatever. It's like, something I've said a lot, and I think bears repeating, is Sam is good at boundaries. He
mhm,
understands that you know uh, sometimes people haven't earned the right to know everything. And I think that's an important lesson, something I try to learn from as well. Because like Jake, as me in real life, like sometimes I'm a little bit too open book, and like that can be, people don't always earn that, and that's a lesson I've tried to learn from Sam. Um, but yeah, I think that history comes back for him. It's hit him a couple of times so far in the show, and I think I'm excited to continue to delve into like how that history informs who he is now, and how it like
mhm.
like ebbs and flows. Like nothing is like, oh, it's done and gone. You know what I mean? When it comes to life, in my opinion, like you get over it, you learn to deal with it, whether it's trauma or relationships or whatever. But it's always there. It's just a matter of how well you've learned to like um, understand it and give it space. I don't think that Sam is great at that. Like he gets to understand, he gets to deal with those things that he kind of like deals with and pushes away, deals with and pushes away. And I think continuing to investigate that is such a learning process because like as an actor, you're always like trying to decide and understand what the history is here, what led me to this moment to where I
Yeah.
feel this way about a thing. And he he really does that. He's having to deal with that, and through that, I get to learn more about it. So like things that I've thought have meandered and changed, and like, oh, this is actually the truth, and this is how that informs me. So as the character grows, and as I'm with him longer, like it does change. He does change, and I think that's something that I don't know that I was aware of when I, as you see television shows that have long running characters, but I definitely am excited, and it continues to thrill me that I get to play someone so complex and so
Yeah.
evolving.
That change feels very slice of life. And you also
Mhm.
have family members who are firefighters. And I think another powerful thing about filmmaking is its ability to shine a light on different walks of life that you may otherwise not be familiar with. How much did you leverage them when you initially took on this role and kind of bringing that authenticity to the screen? Is there a different level of responsibility being a part of this project? I think throughout your career, you've done such a fantastic job attaching yourself to projects that have something to say.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I agree. I think having something to say is important. Sometimes you have that opportunity where you have the choice, and sometimes you don't. As an actor, you're always kind of what is the next job and how do I become a part of it? I think being able to use them, it was more inspiration.
Mhm.
Luckily on this show, we have tons of sources to consult us and educate us on what the real life experience is for a firefighter, whether it's going and riding with doing a ride along with one of the squads or trucks or engines, one of the firehouses here in Chicago, or, people that are our consultants, our producers who are legitimate ex-firefighters. Like Tony on the show, for instance, is a real squad member. He was a real squad member for the last 25 years. He just retired last year as a firefighter. So like there's people we rely on. As far as my family, like I said, I didn't have to go to them necessarily for the information because I had sources already. But I did, there is a certain level of respect for sure. Like you want to display them and portray them rather in a light that is true and honest. Like they're humans, they're not perfect,
Yeah.
but they do a job that is it's all sacrifice. There's not a whole lot of like anytime you walk into a fire, like I went to the Illinois Safety Institute this summer and worked alongside, volunteer firefighters, career firefighters, and it's upwards of 1,000 degrees in some of those rooms. And you're walking into that, sometimes you can't see your hand in front of your face. So like it's a real death defying experience as a firefighter. So making sure that reality, like not ever losing that like heft of
Yeah.
the experience is really important.
And I think you've all accomplished that. And as you were saying earlier, when we first meet your character, he's somebody who is very clear about the boundaries that he has. But as we've gotten to know him, we've been able to see him kind of let those walls down, revealing a much more vulnerable side to him. As an actor, how have you created that space for yourself to explore the vulnerability and the growth in your performance? And how much does your director side of your brain play into that?
That's a good question. There's like so many things in that, right? Like you have what's given to you on the page. We have the words to stand on. And thankfully they've given me a lot of opportunity to stand on some great scenes, great writing. Um, I think to develop it, you have to. It's development as a human. Like you have to learn about you.
Mm,
It's kind of an actory thing. Like learn your instrument, but it's the truth. Like it takes time. It takes discipline and a little bit of courage to go in there and deal with the with your own boundaries inside. I think some of the best things you can do as an actor is go into therapy not only for your self-healing and self-worth, but like also because it helps you understand who you are. So
Yeah.
you start to find those keys into different places of your body and your heart that allow you to get past the head and into your heart space. And that's a hard thing. And as a director, like, our show, like that energy of family and fun and like ribbing each other, like that's all the time. It doesn't stop. So as an actor, I have to be aware that if there's something that needs a little more heart space and a little less like jovialness, then I have to create that. I have to go, I have to take some time away, I have to step away, create what I need to create. So when I walk into that room, that's still there with me. And so as a director, I think it's like what I see that's really interesting about the amazing directors we get to work with is like them giving you space. Like how much does a
Yeah.
director have to be in there while still just protecting the actor's space? Because I think, you hire actors because you see their creativity, their talent, and their willingness to collaborate. So when they're wanting to collaborate, they'll let you know. And when they need the space, trust it. You know what I mean? And obviously, you have to step in as a director when you need to. And that's perfectly valid and should be done. But I think something that's interesting is just recognizing when the actor is in between, like trying to figure something out, and when they just need space to be in the presence of the character in that moment.
That's so true what you were saying about actors seeing themselves as their own instrument. And I think unless you're in the creative field, you don't really realize think about that. And I know you can't say too much, but as a storyteller, so much of your work involves uncovering your characters' motivations, exploring why they are the way that they are and what drives them. What's the biggest question about Sam that's going to be answered this season?
Oh, that's a good question. Like we don't have everything out there. I think this isn't even in the story. It's just kind of what my intuition says. Like I
Mm,
could be completely off, but I think for me, it's like in life you find like what am I willing to fight for? What really matters to me? And that takes time to like understand what are those things that matter enough for me to fight for them. And I think that I hope and what it feels like is that we're going to find those things like what is worth fighting for Sam? Like what is his thing that he thinks is worth it? I don't want to go too much more into it just because my own awareness of what I can say and what I can't say.
yeah,
But I think that's what it is. Like, I love watching characters fight sometimes for the wrong thing, but they're fighting earnestly, and I think that really excites me. Like someone who is inevitably flawed because we all are, but willing to still throw the gloves on and say, no, I'm going to fight for this, you
mm,
know, wholeheartedly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. Your answers are very poetic. This franchise has stood the test of time. What do you think continues to resonate with audiences, and how will this season build on its legacy?
Mhm. I think that's that mirror, like first off, like, and I know I've said this before, but like, I think it's like, again, important. Like we are standing on the backs of those that came before us in so many things in life. And Eamon Walker, who's no longer, he's still Chief Bowden in our hearts, no longer a part of the show on a
Yeah,
regular basis. I think set the stage. Him, all the OGs have set a stage for us, whether that's the off-screen time and collaboration and familial life that we have, like going over and watching the show, like and people coming over and watching it together, or just spending time with each other, having dinner, learning about each other. That stuff resonates and translates into the screen. Like you don't get to have a family style, a joking, jovial, do whatever it takes to save the person to your right and left energy on a show if there's not a certain amount of that happens innately within the cast. And
yeah.
our cast did such a good job doing that. And like I said, those that came before have instilled that into all of us that are part of the show right now, and like we lean into it. And I think that's one of the things that really allows the show to be good. That, and then obviously it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's like the writing. Our writers have put forth again these words that we get to stand on, and they do a lot of work, not only in like creating interesting relationships, because that's what we want to see. Like we want to see the difficulty and the dirt and the chaos of relationships, because that's real life. But also in like finding unique incidents, like how hard must it be at 200 and something episodes to come up with an incident that we haven't
Yeah.
seen? And part of that is like they're doing their work. They're online, looking through news articles, looking at stuff, going, okay, what's new? What happens in the real world? Because it is stranger than fiction so often. They just do a great job giving us an opportunity to do something new. And I think that, along with the relationships, people resonate.
Yeah.
They want to see what's happening nowadays, and we show them an intimate look at that.
Yeah, the dedication and the chemistry between the cast comes across on the screen. I got one final question for you, and I can't let you go without asking this, but where can we see your short film that you directed? And are there any plans to kind of expand that into a full-length feature? I know you're focused on acting right now, but that
Yeah,
premise
yeah.
behind that short seems so compelling to watch.
Yeah, I would love the more the merrier. I would love people to see it. It's a, it's an allegorical film, so it's not literal. Even though the action in it and the experience in it is very literal. Preface it, there's some violence in it, there's gun violence in it. But the allegory is about addiction and like what it takes sometimes for you to like go to the bottom. What, even when people are there trying to reach you through presence and connection, you still have to get to that bottom before you recognize, where can I be reborn? Where can I be changed into the hope and the light that can come later? It's called A Rush of Peace. You can look on a rushofpeace.com, and it should be there. If it's not, we'll make sure that the whole film is there. But yeah, we would love more people to see it. If there's a way to make it into a feature, I would love to. There's, as a director, you always like, you look at a cut and you're like, what could I have done differently? So there's always like in
Mm,
something in there that makes me want to see a new thing within it. But it's hard, man. Sometimes at the same time, like a story is a story, and it's like I feel like it was. I think we did a great job. The team I had around me was super, was absolutely amazing. Hayward did a great job. It's about him, the lead actor.
yeah.
It was his story. His story of addiction to crystal meth. Like it's what drove him to tell that story. He wrote the original, and then we rewrote it together for screen for the short. And it's a beautiful story. It's heartbreaking, and I think you know we're not away from the world where there's a lot of dealing with addiction. Like everybody's been affected with it, whether it's like personally or tangentially. So I'd be happy to do something with it, but right now the timing may not be the best.